Welcome to the podcast today as we continue talking about the history of God's working here at the Anchorage. Thus far, it has seemed like it has taken us quite a while to roll out this history, but just kind of bring you up to speed. We have really covered already 25 years of the Anchorage history. And as we continue today, we're talking again about the idea of turning points. David, what would you say was kind of the next turning point? We've talked about facilities and the development of that and how that plays into really how people decide about going to a camp or how people make decisions about what the direction of the camp is.
Well, when people are looking to send somebody to camp, whether it be a youth group or whether it be a parent, one of the first things they're going to look at is the nature of the facility. And so it's very important that what you're presenting is meeting what they have in mind as far as necessity or what's desirable, for a camp setting. I don't think, even because we use the word camp still, I don't think anybody's expecting the Taj Mahal or the Hilton whatever. But there is a greater expectation in the last 25 years, more so that a camp has got to be comfortable and obviously safe and more upscale than what was originally thought. One of the things, I've been around camp for a long time. It's been a great privilege to have seen camps from back in the 70s when I think we've mentioned it before. Camp was basically a building in the woods with some kind of water source to play in and mattress that smelled like a sock and skeeters and red bugs and sweat. And so that was the whole idea of camp, and kids responded well to that. Get outside, do something.
A slight variation from just camping.
Right, it's just barely. But the end game is that it morphed forward as a society morphed forward. One of the huge turning point. Well, it's interesting. When folks come to camp, they're visiting camp, they're not familiar with it. They want to see several things. They want to see, where the sleeping quarters are. They want to see, what we have as far as recreation goes. But they want to see the bathrooms. The bathrooms have got to be more upscale than it used to be an outhouse and such as that. But they want to see what's going on with the bathrooms, and they want to see the dining room and understand a little bit about what the food's going to be like and all those things that really didn't matter. Everybody expected bad food at camp back in the 70s and 80s. That was just the routine. And everybody expected kind of a dirty, trashy, especially bathroom facility, just very subpar. That was the expectation. Those expectations changed. And as we've mentioned, I think before, direction is many times as important as where you happen to be at any given time. And so one of the things that the Lord allowed us to do through all the things, and some of them were very dark times, and there's no question about that. If you've been keeping up with these podcasts, you know that. But is that we've presented a direction. This is the direction that we're going. We're going with the facility. We're going with it with our philosophy. We're going with it with our outreach. This is the direction that we're headed. We may not be there yet. And after 3-4 years now, I'm not sure we're there yet either. but I think we're still headed in the right direction, and people seem to appreciate that. One of the last time we were together, we talked about the big turning point of long-term directorship when the Lord opened the door for salaried employees. That was a huge undertaking, because we not only went from me and Jeannie serving to opening the door for bringing others in that were necessary. Nobody has all the gifts. Nobody has all the skills. I think of myself a bit as a visionary, but reality escapes me. I think I mentioned before, I'm terrible in the office. And so obviously somebody has the skills. That's as necessary a part as running a program is having office workers, administration, and those that can preach and teach and do all those other things that are so necessary to a good program. And so that was a huge turning point. But by the time that took place, we're talking that was 94, 95, it became very aware to me that the facility had to undergo some major changes yet again. We'd already added the gym, realized the advantage of having an indoor gathering place, recreation place that was comfortable, that was weatherproof, that was a place that people wanted to be and gave you lots of options. I think we mentioned that we air conditioned that right when we put it in. That was cutting edge. Nobody air conditioned gyms back then. But from the 70s, when camps started, and there were a lot of camps starting at that point in time, a lot of camps that had been established for a while or had a good reputation. But in the 70s, very, very few in eastern North Carolina were living in air-conditioned houses. The schools were not air-conditioned. Some churches were not air-conditioned. Most of the offices, I think, were started to be air-conditioned by that point in time. But houses, if it was air-conditioned at all, it was basically a room air conditioner where you air-conditioned one room, and everybody stayed in that on those hottest summer nights. But generally speaking, it was an outdoor culture. You didn't stay inside; it was too hot. So you went outside. It was hot outside too, but it was, it was different hot. It was a little more airy. And so that was, when you went to camp, that was the expectation. Nobody had air-conditioned camps back then. Well, as society moved on, it became cheaper to put in and became more expected. Air conditioning went from room and spot air conditioning to wall, indoor air conditioning. I had one of my earliest jobs was helping put in air conditioning to a house that had not any, a whole house, like a central unit. And I've also decided that's where the Sawzall came from, is that the air conditioner guys, they needed something that would cut through anything, because there was nothing sacred to them. But when it came to putting in air conditioning in a house. But I remember that, and that was just big time. You look at your friends like they had fallen into ridiculous amounts of wealth by the time, if they had an air conditioned house, and that's where everybody wanted to go. Nobody missed that birthday party. But anyway, so it was very clear that times had changed. And so what had happened, and I was doing a little bit of research and such, is that I figured out that, or studies showed, I guess would be a better way of doing it. I didn't do the study, but studies showed that people acclimate to a new climate basically in 8 days. So you can move to outer Slobovia and acclimate to whatever outer Slobovia offers in 8 days. The problem is that nobody stays at camp for more than 6.
Right.
And so if you came from an air-conditioned school, church, home, office, whatever, to camp, it was miserable 6 days. And so it became very obvious to me, especially when I realized how much better things went spirit-wise once we air-conditioned the gym, and then more shortly after that we're able to air-condition the dining room, that we had to get the facility air-conditioned, that we were shooting ourselves in the foot if we didn't. And so I started praying probably 92, 94 was in really dawned on me, this is a direction we have to go. How we're going to get there, I don't know. We had no money, and if we had to do it again today, we still have no money. But the point is that was the direction that we had to go, and I was sold on that. Some things transpired in that once we had moved to full-time directorship, people had a little bit more confidence. They were a little more giving with their money, and were giving towards something of increasing value instead of keeping something alive. That made a huge difference. And so we were able to move forward with some things, and the Lord opened the door for us in 97 through a number of various ways of going ahead and bringing air conditioning into the entirety. I really, one of the big things was the upstairs where the where the girls' dormitories were. Oh my word, you can only imagine how hot it was. It was like living in an attic. I guess for all practical purposes they were. But it was so brutally hot and just draining on the spirit and such as that. So moving forward into that era was huge. Interesting enough, again, the Lord's timing it's a big old wooden building. One of my huge concerns every night before I go to bed, I'm praying, Lord, you got to protect people tonight because I can't stay awake all night. And is what to do in case of fire. I always want to make sure people can get out. That's my thing. I kind of every place I go, if I go into a hotel, the first thing I figure out is how to get out. If I go into an auditorium, the first thing I figure out is how to get out. I'm a little obsessive compulsive about that in many ways, and so a extension cord going across the walkway for somebody's cell phone, it drives me over the edge. I don't want anything in the way of getting out. And so the insurance people, we made do and met all our codes, but the insurance folks came in and determined that we needed to change our exit plan for the upstairs from the upstairs girls. We'd already moved the stairway out to the lobby area, but it was an open stairway. And so I had been trying to figure out how to air condition and keep things open and campish, but at the same time closed enough so that I'm not trying to air condition all of Lake Waccamaw. And what they were making us do fit in perfectly with a plan. That's the plan we still utilize today. You come in, the lobby is open. It's like a porch. It's not air conditioned, but we were able to close up all the doors to the outside of it, and it made it just move things into a logical step we should have seen 20 years ago but didn't. And so we were able to we had to make those changes anyway, and so that was the very logical time to do it. So again, this is one of those ones that the Lord just lays on your heart. Okay, it's time to do this. We got no money. You have to trust me on this one, so to speak. And so we started making plans, and the Lord opened up the door. And so in 97, we got the downstairs air conditioning in. We got the upstairs air conditioning in. Got the main room air conditioned. Snack shop and gym were already air conditioned. The dining room was already air conditioned. The kitchen was air conditioned to a certain degree. So that made a huge difference in everything that we did. Now it was it was spotty. We didn't get it right the first time. We had to add some things and change some things around, but it made a huge difference and put us in a whole different league. I think I was just mentioning to you earlier, from 96, 97, those years, which were good years, they weren't terrible years as far as attendance goes. But in 1998, there was a lot of factors involved, but not the least of which was that we were the only air-conditioned camp around, that our summer attendance increased 72% over 1 year.
That's incredible.
And really enlightened the need. Yes, that was incredible. And really enlightened the need of okay, fine, we need more permanent staff. This has gotten beyond us now. This is where we need to grow to. We need to bring in people that have credibility and are seeing the same vision we're doing and are driven by the same philosophy of ministry that we're driven by, that are capable communicators. And so that opened up a whole new door of operational ministry for us. And it was, again, the timing was impeccable. From 98 to 99. 99 is when I think it was when I first met you.
Yeah. Was
our first men's retreat ever. One of the better stalwarts of our program, brought in a whole new area of ministry and people that have become supporters over the years. just tremendous open door opportunity, not been available. Men would not have put up with that without air conditioning. And they almost didn't put up with it because of the snoring. But
True story. True story.
But opened up more doors of ministry, opened up our fall ministry. 98 is when we really started kicking off school camps, which are such a huge part of our fall program. I mean, it is wall to wall to wall. And primarily, again, because most school camps, they're toward the end of August, early September. It's still hot in Eastern North Carolina, and so to have a school camp that is not just absolute misery was big, and we were able to meet that need, and it's opened up so many other avenues. Now, the Lord did it, and there's no question about that. I think of the numbers of having to replace. I think right now we have 43 air conditioning units on the property. So the installation and maintenance and keeping up with those is daunting. And if we had to do it all over again, okay, David, you got to go from no to go. Add to it. I'm like, okay, let's build that dining room chapel facility. It's cheaper. but the end game is that it's daunting. It's daunting to keep up with it. But the Lord's opened the door to maintain it, and it has been a blessing, and certainly has made camp easier and more marketable to folks that don't know what they're looking for in a camp scenario, but they do know what they're looking for in a camp facility.
Yeah. I'm saying, as you're talking about this, I mean, there's not a generation between you and I, and yet I don't ever remember not having air conditioning in our home. Now, did Mom always use it well? No, probably not. I could still sweat inside the house. But we moved into that house when I was 2.5, and so it almost seems strange to a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, to think about, you mean actually did camp without air conditioning? But it just makes you realize how much change can happen quickly, and even in the way the culture thinks about facilities and property like this. And as David has been talking about the not getting it all right and updating and changing things, we just next week we will actually be making some more changes in some air conditioning. God has brought us some volunteers that are going to help us out with the upstairs of the girls' bunk room area, and that's one of the things that we were using some of the funds from the matching gift campaign for. And they'll come in and help us get that, make some improvements on that to help with the AC again. Just a reminder, maybe you are out there and you have skills, whether it's AC or plumbing or gardening and landscaping. You enjoy doing that, and you believe it. Maybe the Lord could use your gifts and your skills here at the camp. Give us a call. We would love to be able to partner with you, and to be honest, we'd love to help put you to work a little bit here at the camp. And maybe you'd have a volunteer project you'd like to take on, or something that you'd like to see accomplished with a group from your church or a group of friends. We'd love to be a part of that. And thank you for listening today.
Thank you for listening to the Anchorage Podcast. If you would like to learn more about the Anchorage Christian Camp, visit our website, anchoragecamp.org. If you have questions or podcast suggestions, please email info@anchoragecamp.org. May God be glorified. Hebrews 6:19, which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, and which entereth into that within the veil.